with the title From Waste to Value, a research industry dialogue on resource recovery. My name is Andrea Rubini. I'm the Director of Operations of Water Europe, which is the recognized voice and promoter of water-led innovation, research, and technology development in Europe. The topic of today, I think that goes well beyond, even the circular economy and other more technical issues like wastewater treatment. Because resource recovery, it is increasingly becoming really a strategic component of the competitiveness of Europe, its resilience, and at the same time, its strategic autonomy, particularly in this period of time of geopolitical tensions in the planet. As we know, the water systems, it's not a news, just to reiterate the concept, contain valuable resources, nutrients, energy, reusable water, which also our extremely important resource, and other materials that can really help reducing dependencies to strengthen the industrial value chains and contribute to a more sustainable and resilient European economy. And this is absolutely aligned with the Water Europe vision on the water smart society and economy, where water is no longer seen as simply as a resource to be managed, but really a strategic asset of our society, able to generate environmental, economic, and societal value. In this context, which is, of course, quite complex, but at the same time, we need to deal with a growing water stress in Europe and beyond Europe, and the increasing pressures on raw materials and the need for having, a more strong competitiveness of the European Union, recovering value from water and wastewater streams is becoming an important part of a potential solution. However, nevertheless, if we want really to achieve these results, if we really want to go through this transition, this requires much more than just technology alone. And the need is really for collaboration between research, industry, and utilities, policymakers, and investors. That's because there is the need for accelerated deployment and create all the conditions for large-scale implementation. And this is really more than urgent. This is also the purpose of today's webinar, is about creating a dialogue between research and industry perspective. This is, it's important because we need to better understand and to better, stay on the same page about the opportunities, the challenges, the pathways towards, really a wider uptake of resource recovery solutions. And I take the opportunity to thank the speakers and the participants for joining us today, as well, my colleagues at Water Europe for their unbelievable support in organizing this webinar. And with this, I'm really pleased to hand over the floor to Felix Meyer-Horn, who is the leader of the Water Europe Expert Group on Resource Recovery, who will introduce the session in details and guide us through the discussion of today. Thank you so much once again. Felix, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're here to discuss a major opportunity for Europe's water sector, transforming about 77,500 wastewater treatment plants for Europe from cost centers into resource recovery and energy hubs. The question is no longer how much does wastewater treatment cost? The real question is how much value are we losing every day? Because wastewater is not waste, it contains valuable resources, including water, nutrition, and energy. Today, I would like to highlight 3 opportunities. The first is phosphorus recovery. It's a critical ingredient for food production, yet Europe imports about 2 million tons, relying heavily on imports. The second is energy recovery. Wastewater treatment plants are major energy consumers. Modern technologies can reduce energy savings estimated between 850 and 1.2 billion euros and help facilities move towards energy neutrality. And the third is water reuse. As we all know, wastewater treatment plants will produce wastewater, cleaned wastewater, And what about reusing that and address the water scarcity? Yet the biggest challenge, I believe, is not technology, it is the mindset. If we continue to view wastewater treatment only as a compliance obligation, we risk missing major economic and environmental opportunities. So the technologies exist, the regulatory framework is evolving, and the business case is becoming stronger. Now we need implementation at scale. To help us explore these opportunities, we're joined by three distinguished speakers today. Professor Dr. Martin Wagner from TU Darmstadt will present innovative resource recovery solutions and how they can be translated into practical implementation. We have Malgorzata Slachta, who will moderate and share perspectives on policy, innovation, and collaboration across the water sector. Third, we have Tobias Eriksson, who will present practical experience demonstrating the benefits of resource recovery and energy optimization. Today's discussion is about the future of Europe's water sector, a future where treatment plants become resource factories and wastewater helps address Europe's energy, climate, and resource challenges. Thank you, and I wish you a very inspiring and productive session. And over to Professor Dr. Martin Wagner.
So I can share my screen now. Thank you very much, Felix Meyerhorn, for the introduction. I'm happy to be here, and thanks to organizers that I have the possibility to give here a short presentation, only 20 minutes. So wastewater, water and wastewater, realized possibilities for water recovery. And I start actually. What we see here, water and also the sewage sludge are valuable resources with respect to recovery of phosphorus, treated wastewater for water reuse, absolutely necessary for food production, and the energy production from wastewater and sewage sludge. Starting with phosphorus recovery, I will give in my presentation it very short because my other colleagues from Sweden give more information in detail. So I ask the question, why we need phosphorus recovery from wastewater and sewage sludge? Yeah, that is an essential nutrient for the whole food production worldwide. And in the second point, we have to reduce the dependence on the important phosphorus and in increasing supply of the phosphorus. And the last, and it's also very important, is climate protection and the resource conservation. We have a lot of phosphorus recovery processes for precipitation from slurry water. That is, we call it a screw-ride process. What is the product from this process? It's a very high quality, slow release fertilizer, which can we use in agriculture very fast. A wet chemical process, we call it digestion of the sludge or the ash of the sludge after an incineration. The product is a purified phosphorus acid or liquid phosphorus. We can use it in the fertilizer industry. The thermochemical processes from the sludge incineration ash, also it's a chloride-based phosphorus fertilizer. And last but not least, the pyrolysis. The product is a mineral-rich coal pellet, and that can be used directly as soil improver or fertilizer in agriculture. And what you see here, that is a plant in Chopin in Germany. It started this year, and we will get 30,000 tons of sewage sludge ash per year and can produce fertilizer. Now I skip to the water reuse. Why we need the water reuse? When we have a look here at the slide, the population growth. In 2021, we have around about 8 billion people at our world, and we expect in 2100 nearly 11 billion people. And we need this water for food production. And when you have a look to the right picture here, urbanization is a big problem. We need more and more water in our big cities. We have regulations. First regulations are from the European Parliament. And what we see is in Article 15 in the regulations, water reuse and discharge of urban wastewater. And here we see that the member states shall systematically promote the reuse of treated wastewater. That are our European regulations. What opportunities we have for water reuse? What you see here in agriculture, or golf parks, or sport parks, or for the firefighters, for industry, cooling towers, or street cleaning, very important in Asia, where we have a lot of problems in the street. We need the water for cleaning. And last but not least, for toilet flushing. Why we have to use drinking water for toilet flushing? There are other solutions. Coming to examples, very, very important, Singapore, the new water. The new water is coming from wastewater treatment plants. Here, the Ulu Padang water reclamation plant, the water production, and that is running very well, personally, is 750,000 cubic meters per day. And also the Changi water reclamation plant. Changi is near the international airport of Singapore. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see drinking water produced from wastewater. I drink it, and it's very good water coming from wastewater. Orange County in California, one of the biggest installations worldwide for reuse of water, 450,000 cubic meters per day, and that is enough water to meet the needs of 1 million people. And you see the pipes. When the pipes are in the purple color, that means that is reused water. Other example, Irvine, California. That's planned as early as the 1960s. Yeah, we have a lot of water saving, 25% per person, and we don't need it as a drinking water. And that is in San Diego, also in California. What we see here is a water filling station. Yeah, you see the purple color here. The residents of San Diego can obtain recycled water coming by car and fill all the whole car, let's say, with reused water. That's very good to do. I have built this resource recovery center in Qingdao in China. It was a pilot plant, but the pilot plant is good for 12,500 people. We sample the water as a gray water from bath tubes and showers, and also black water from kitchen and toilet. And you see here the building, the big building, 70 to 70 meter, and we use 100% of the water as a reuse water for street irrigation and for street cleaning, and also irrigation. And very important is there's no discharge into a river. Yeah, so that are different modules, and you see around about 800 cubic meter per day, black water, gray water. We add waste, food waste to produce more energy, and we can run the treatment plant or the RRC energetic autark. That is really realized, and you see here left-hand side the inlet of the resource recovery, or the inside the resource recovery center. And I asked you the question, is that a wastewater treatment plant, stinky and so on? Yeah, and on the right hand side, the trucks in the morning, 6 o'clock, coming to the wastewater treatment plant or the RRC, and the tank, the water, and it's good for street cleaning. Now I come for the very important point, energy production at wastewater treatment plant and how to reduce the energy consumption of a wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plant is the biggest consumer of energy in every city worldwide when there is a wastewater treatment plant. And here is why we need energy production from wastewater and sewage sludge. We have the directive, the European directive of the European Parliament from 27th of November 2024. And here in Article 11, energy neutrality. That means we have a look to all the measures to reduce the use of energy and enhance the use and production of renewable energy with a focus on the potential for biogas production or the recovery and use of waste heat. That means we have directives in Europe for all countries in Europe that we have to run our wastewater treatment plants in future energy autarkic. And what you see here is that is the percentage of the plants and the specific electricity demand in kilowatt hour per capita per year. And you see the 50% deal. And what you see are different sizes of wastewater treatment plants. And you see a lot of plants which produce or need more energy than it is allowed. And therefore, we have to recover energy from wastewater, and that we can. Here a scheme looks very complicated, but isn't. On the left-hand side, you see the influent into the wastewater treatment plant. That is valid for whole Europe. We have around about 150 kilowatt hour per capita per day of energy in the wastewater. And after the treatment process and the operation of a digester, we get round about 13 kilowatt hour per capita per year after the production of power and heat. And the rest we need as an external power supply to run the wastewater treatment plant. This wastewater treatment plants have a total power consumption of around about 33 kilowatt hour per capita per year. That means we can run this wastewater treatment plant not energy autarkic, but we have measures to do that. I'll show you later on. How to reduce the energy consumption, optimization of aeration system, and optimization of the digester process. Yeah, and what you see here is a very interesting wastewater treatment plant. My former professor say best aeration system is a perforated tank floor. That's not possible, but we have technical solutions, large area plate diffusers you see in the pictures, and when you install that, you have the chance to run wastewater treatment plant very energy efficient. On the other side, you have to install blowers, and here you have to minimize the energy consumption of these blowers, and a target value is a specific power, 30 to 35 watts per cubic meter per hour and bar of pressure. Here an example in Germany, that's an island in Rügen, installation of the blowers, and you see different sizes of the blowers. That is because at night you haven't so much need of energy, and therefore you can use a smaller blower, which is running very effective. Or what you can do is, instead of the activated sludge process I showed you before, you can run wastewater treatment plants with, for example, the narrator process, where you have small parts like sand, but biological active. And here are examples for in the Netherlands, Garmerswolde wastewater treatment plants, or the big plant in Utrecht. Digester, here you can produce the energies that are big digesters in Berlin or in Hamburg on the right-hand side, or in the Ruhr area in Germany. So how you can get more biogas to produce power and heat? Add co-substrates like food waste, or, for example, oil from fruit preparation. Incineration plants also can deliver energy, especially heat, but when you have heat, you also can produce power. Big wastewater, big plant is the plant in Hong Kong, in China, and the Hundertwasser treatment plant in Vienna, for example. But you can produce heat also directly from the wastewater in sewers and directly in the wastewater treatment plant, decentralized in buildings, water from shower and bath tubes, at the neighborhood level, heat exchanger, and you can use the heat exchanger you see at the left-hand side, or you install big heating pumps in the effluent of a wastewater treatment plant. Examples are wastewater treatment plant in Hamburg, Germany. Around about 40,000 households are connected to get the energy, the heat, also in Duisburg in Germany. Artificial intelligence is also a big topic in running wastewater treatment plants. For example, digital twins of a wastewater treatment plant, so we can optimize the operation of wastewater treatment plants, and therefore also optimize energy reduction and optimize recovery of phosphorus that we can do. And what we can do also with AI is the reduction of emissions, so carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. That is also possible with a digital twin. What are future challenges? First of all, removal and degradation of microplastics from wastewater. You can reuse also some microplastic, and production of biopolymers, bio-based plastic from wastewater. So here we have specialized bacteria. They use the acids in the wastewater as a food, and they then produce polyhydroxyalkanates, PHA, and that is a biodegradable plastic with thermoplastic properties. And so it is a possibility to replace conventional petroleum-based plastic in a lot of applications. So, and last but not least, that's for me, it's the wording, wastewater treatment plants. It looks like dirty. It's not good. I am of the opinion, why we don't call wastewater treatment plants not resource recovery center. I think I've shown you that we have a lot of resources in our wastewater, and so I am nearly at the end of my presentation in time. Summary and conclusions. Wastewater is a valuable resource. You just have to use it. What are resources? Phosphorus, reuse water, energy. And that means power and heat. We have a lot of realized projects worldwide in practice, in practical scale. We have some future challenges, artificial intelligence, and also the production of bio polymers. And my aspect is resource recovery centers instead of wastewater treatment plants. I think that is important because of the wording. And I have the last picture, and that's my dog. He's so happy. He's so happy because he see the good water quality. It's not AI generated. That's really, he's very happy. I thank you for your attention. You see my email address on the right-hand side of this slide. And I thank you for your attention, and I am open for questions later on, and I hand over to my next colleague, I think. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Martin Wagner. I think we can move over to our next colleague, I believe is ready.
Yes, hi, I'm trying to share my screen here. I don't know if you can see it.
All good.
And you can hear me good?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Tobias Eriksson, and I work for Rank Cells in Brussels. I'm based here full-time working with EU affairs. And Rank Cells is a Swedish waste management company in the transition to become a resource producer. So, yeah, the family started the company in 1881, taking waste from the city to use on nearby farms. And the company has then developed through the generations, and today we develop new circular solutions on how to make use of resources we already have over and over again. Yeah, we have established 3 fundamental principles to reform our future business, and these are reduction of the usage of virgin resources, so by providing high quality materials from urban flows, decontamination of material flows, so regardless of their final use, and ensuring a livable planet where future generation can thrive. And the principles are based on the scientific understanding of the planetary boundaries and the flow of materials through society. And today, humanity is exceeding 6 out of these 9 boundaries, with increasing pressure on all of them except one. But by creating a circular loop that includes proper decontamination, we believe that we can counteract the violation of any of these 9 boundaries. And we really believe that if we are serious about transitioning towards a sustainable society, we need to use the materials we have over and over again. And to do this, we have developed technologies for the recovery of phosphorus and nitrogen from sewage sludge and wastewater. And on this slide, you can see 3 of our technologies. As I mentioned, the contamination is a key element of the circular economy, as there are certain substances and materials that should not be circulated in the society. So landfills therefore play an important role in detoxification and work as a secure storage for these substances. We are therefore also involved in developing solutions to collect and store PFAS, but that is a topic for another time. Today I will focus on nutrients and nutrients recovery. And even though I will mainly focus on phosphorus today, I feel like it's important to also mention nitrogen, because the paradox in the current system is quite striking. Today, wastewater treatment plants are tasked to do bad things less bad. So wastewater treatment plants remove nitrogen to protect water bodies. But in doing so, they often convert nitrogen into nitrogen gas and release it back into the atmosphere. At the same time, nitrogen fertilizers are produced through the Haber-Bosch process, which is it's highly energy intensive and heavily dependent on fossil gas. So this means that we are essentially destroying a valuable resource in one part of the system only to recreate it again elsewhere at a very high climate cost, because nitrogen fertilizers today, the production of nitrogen fertilizer account for emissions equivalent to over 1 billion tons of CO2 per year. So this is something we work hard to change. In Brussels, we want to push for this resource plant concept because our innovation company, Easy Mining, has developed a technology called Aqua2N, and it is a chemical process that removes and recovers ammonium from sludge liquor, and the process removes more than 95% of the ammonium nitrogen. So what circular solutions like ours, Aqua2N, show is that it is possible to break this traditional loop. So instead of releasing nitrogen, it can be captured directly at the wastewater treatment plant in a stable form that can be used as a fertilizer input. And so this means that the resource is preserved, emissions from fertilizer production are reduced, and most importantly, emissions from biological treatment are avoided. So from an industry perspective, this is not only an environmental improvement, it changes the wastewater treatment plants from a cost center to a producer of valuable resources. So the technology today exists, but the main challenge is that current legislation is still designed around removal, not recovery. And there are requirements to reduce nitrogen, but there are no binding requirements or incentives to recover it. But now let's move to phosphorus. Phosphorus is an essential resource for life, and there is no substitute. Without it, agriculture productivity would collapse. At the same time, phosphorus is becoming increasingly important for the green transition, not least through lithium iron phosphate batteries. So from an industry perspective, this makes phosphorus a truly strategic resource, not only for climate policy, but for food security, resilience, and competitiveness in Europe. And yet Europe today is highly dependent on import. Today, around 90% of the phosphorus we use comes from outside the EU, so primarily from countries like Russia, Morocco, or China. At the same time, the system is highly inefficient. Less than 5% of the phosphorus that is mined actually ends up in food. The rest is lost along the value chain, often into water system, which contributes to eutrophication and significant environmental damage. So we're kind of facing a paradox here. On the one hand, we are dependent on imports of critical raw materials, and on the other hand, we are effectively wasting what we already have. So now, if we turn to the business case, it is important to understand that the technology is not the main barrier here either. Processes already exist that can extract phosphorus from sewage sludge, ash, and produce products of very high purity. Ragn-Sells and Easy Mining have developed a technology to recover phosphorus from incinerated sewage sludge ash called Ash2Phos, as mentioned by my colleague earlier. And in this process, we add acid and lime to the ash and can, from the process, recover 90 to 95% of the phosphorus, as well as other materials such as aluminium and iron, while then also getting rid of pollutants in the sludge. And we're now scaling up. We're building our first factory in Germany right now. So the key question is not how to recover phosphorus, but how to remove the barriers that technologies, barriers to these technologies, and how to create or unlock the demand. And if we look at the market, most of the phosphorus is used in fertilizers. So this is a very large market, and prices fluctuate. Competing with imported phosphorus rock, especially from large-scale producers, is very difficult. This is a significant concern, as imported phosphorus rock may contain contaminants such as cadmium, and also then reinforces the EU's dependency on third countries. But when it comes to animal feed and feed phosphate, these require very high purity, and today this market is heavily dependent on high quality phosphate, much of which comes from Russia. And here recycled phosphorus could actually compete very well, and in some cases even outperform conventional raw materials in terms of purity. And we also see emerging demand from new industrial sectors, as I mentioned earlier, particularly when it comes to batteries. So lithium iron phosphate batteries are growing rapidly, with a strong demand expected over the coming decades. And these applications also require high purity phosphorus, and they represent an additional opportunity for recycled materials. And at the same time, there is another important factor that strengthens the business case today, and this is the avoided cost. Because in several countries, particularly Germany, we are seeing a shift towards mandatory incineration of sewage sludge. And this creates a large volume of ash, which must either be disposed of or at a significant cost or processed. So recycling phosphorus in this context is not only about creating value, it's also about avoiding disposal costs and turning a liability into a resource. So the conclusion from our perspective is quite clear. The real opportunity for phosphorus recycling is in high value applications where quality matters and where Europe has a strategic interest in securing its supply. And this is where things become quite challenging again, because today in Europe, recycled phosphorus can only be used in fertilizers. But if we can access higher value markets such as feed or certain industrial uses, then the business case becomes fundamentally different. So the main legislative barrier is that EU legislation does not allow the use of phosphorus derived from waste streams in animal feed, regardless of the quality of the final product. And this is based on a precautionary approach that dates back to the early food safety concerns. But the result is that even highly purified safe materials are excluded simply because of their origin. And this creates a fundamental misalignment. On the one hand, the EU promotes circular economy, resource efficiency, and reduced dependency on imports. And on the other hand, existing rules kind of prevent circular solutions from actually accessing the market where they would make most sense. So from our perspective, the core issue is that the regulation is still focused on origin rather than quality, and the system asks where the material comes from instead of what it actually is. And this is, in our view, the main barrier to scaling phosphorus recycling in Europe. And to just give you a final example of important circular solutions, I want to mention aquaculture, because aquaculture is already a large and growing sector in Europe today, generating around 4.6 billion in annual revenue, and much more if you include Norway, Scotland, and Iceland. At the same time, the EU is highly dependent on imports of fish and seafood, with imports covering about 62% of consumption. And fish farming is one of the key solutions for feeding a growing global population. However, the associated waste streams have so far been more of a challenge than an opportunity. So in most cases, fish sludge sinks through the net pens of the fish farms and is released into the ocean, which contribute to eutrophication. But by introducing circular solutions, this could fundamentally change. It could generate up to 30 billion in direct revenues, while also driving investments, creating jobs, and reducing the EU's dependency on import. Oh, sorry, I moved too fast there. So yeah, Ragn-Sells is actively working to enable this transition. So in our Havbruk project in Norway, which you can see here on the slide, the sludge is captured using a cap beneath the net pen and then transported to the shore, and first used for biogas production, and the remaining nutrients are then recovered using easy mining technologies. So we are now participating in an EU-funded Horizon Europe project called Aquaphoenix, which aims at making aquaculture more sustainable by turning fish farming waste into valuable resources instead of an environmental burden. And the project brings together researchers, industry partners, and fish farmers to better understand the environmental impact of fish sludge and to develop circular solutions. So we basically contribute with our Aqua10 technology to recover nitrogen from the liquid fraction of aquaculture waste, and then adapt our Astrofos technology to extract the phosphorus from the ash after sludge incineration. So, and the technical trials are expected to begin soon, likely from mid-2026. So from a purely technical perspective, we know how to collect this sludge, treat it, and convert it into fertilizers or feed input. And if then circular solutions are implemented at scale, the potential is significant. Aquaculture production could increase substantially, and circular solutions could add tens of billions of euros in economic value, while also then reducing import dependency. But again, in reality, the potential is not realized, because today there is in practice a total ban on using recovered nutrients from fish sludge for agriculture or feed. So again, we see the same kind of structural issue as with our sewage sludge and nitrogen solution. It is not about the lack of technology, it's about regulatory definitions and market access. So if fish sludge were recognized either as a byproduct or as an approved input material in EU fertilizer rules, this would unlock an entire circular value chain linking aquaculture, wastewater, fertilizer, and food production. So with our solutions, we make use of the resources we already have over and over again, and can by that reduce the risk of overshooting our planetary boundaries. But how do we enable this? So first, we need a shift towards a quality-based regulation. If a product meets strict safety and quality requirements, its origin should not automatically exclude it from use, particularly in applications like feed where purity can be verified. And second, phosphorus should be treated as a truly strategic raw materials, not only in the context of energy technologies, but also for food systems. Food production is just as critical for resilience as energy supply. And third, we need clearer market signals, and this could include differentiation based on contaminant levels, incentives for recycled content, or other mechanisms that reward higher quality and more sustainable production. So if these elements are in place, the potential is significant. We could see the emergence of a new European recycling industry, reduced import dependency, lower environmental impacts, and the creation of jobs and investments within the EU. And by that, I just want to end by saying thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Tobias. Very in detailed overview of everything that's available, and I don't want to waste too much time. It's over to Malgorzata today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bias and Dr. Martin, for very nice and very interesting presentations. It was nice to hear the science and the business point of view side by side. And I would like to put a few questions to each of you, but before we'll move with the questions, again, the request to our audience. So everyone who is watching or listening, just please feel free to add your questions in a chat box and we'll get to them in a moment. But I would like to start with you, Dr. Martin. You showed a wide range of impressive installations already up and running around the world, but most European utilities are nowhere near that. And Tobias, in his presentation, mentioned that the main barriers are regulations and access to the market. But in your opinion, do you share the same opinion, or maybe it is something else additionally, like, for instance, how we still think about the wastewater itself? Maybe this is the social barrier.
Yeah. First of all, I think wastewater treatment plants have to work, and they have to clean the wastewater. That's the important one. But the other, and more operator companies are looking for that reuse aspect, phosphorus. In Germany, we have to do that until 2028, give a solution how to recover phosphorus, and more installations, incineration plant, mono incineration plants are in operation or are under construction to fulfill the requirements. And the operator companies see that the wastewater is a resource, and they can earn more money when they, for example, produce reuse water and bring it to the farmers. For example, in Germany, we have areas in the eastern part of Germany where we produce energy plants, but we haven't so much water to irrigate that, and so there's no chance to produce energy. Yes, most of the operators or operator companies think of treating the wastewater, but more and more, and that is worldwide, I would say, looking for resources to earn money from the dirty water. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. Tobias, so you mentioned we were very clear, and regulation, access to the market. So in both cases, phosphorus and the nitrogen as well. Do you think so there's any other aspect that we should consider? What is the barriers? I ask about the social aspect. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I would say we risk of repeating myself, but the business case here stands on three legs, basically. It's a regulation, market access, and the avoided costs. So regulation is currently the decisive factor, not because of the lack that we lack rules, but because the existing framework is still designed around this removal rather than recovery, and often focuses on the origin of the materials rather than the quality. So this effectively blocks access to higher value markets like feed, where recycled phosphorus could actually compete very well. And then you have the market side as well. In fertilizers, we are competing with these large-scale imported phosphate rocks, often at lower costs. So the market alone does not always reward circular solutions, even if they are cleaner or more strategic for Europe. So yeah, what strengthen the business case, however, is that we could what we could call the embedded value. So in particular, the avoided disposal cost. So yeah, overall, it's not either regulation or market. It is the regulation that the regulation largely determines whether the market can function. Yeah.
Combination of different
Yes,
aspects
exactly.
and this. Yeah, I would like to ask about one thing because Dr. Martin pointed to the AI and the digital twins. So this the future future challenge. I also step first the next step. So Tobias, what do you think about that? Because how implementation of the AI tools and the digital twins are already there in place, really functioning and delivering, and how is it still in an early development stage and the implementation from your business perspective as an industry?
Yeah, well, I would say it's very important and something we are following closely and more intensively the last couple of months and years. Like the digital transition in general it is not something that I have a lot of knowledge about and how it affected our business today, but we see that it's taking more place in the debate in general, and especially here in Brussels, of course, when it comes to all the legislations and regulations popping up within the field. So I think it will be more important for us to like putting resources in also monitor how it will affect this side of the business.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Martin, we would like to hear your opinion here as well, because it was a very good point from your side.
Yes, I know a lot of companies which are developing now AI processes for operating wastewater treatment plants, but also designing wastewater treatment plants for an optimum operation with respect to low energy consumption, high sludge production for producing biogas, but on the other side, doing it with small footprints of the new wastewater treatment plants. And when we think of PFAS, how we can reduce PFAS in modern wastewater treatment plants. And there are a lot of developments, especially in research. But I am of the opinion in the next 5 years, we see a lot of installations in especially the big wastewater treatment plants. So that's a good sign. And on the other side, the very small wastewater treatment plants, where today we have no chance that every day an operator looking for the wastewater treatment plant, we will get AI processes to run the wastewater treatment plant automatically. Yes. And so that I mean that we need a lot of measuring systems to see which, let's say, kind of wastewater we will get in the influent, and then AI can react and can start aeration, stop aeration, start mixers, and so on and so on. Yeah, so that's my opinion. I'm sure.
So yes, it's the different level of efficiency, I would say, and the optimization and the time response time for any changes. So yes, it's completely different. Makes the operators' life much easier, I would say.
Yeah.
But I have the one more question to you, because we have the questions. I'm just checking our chat, and we have one question from our from the audience to you directly. And the question is coming from Robert Den Breams, and he's asking, what role do you think a non-biological treatment concept has in a transition to a circular water system?
Non-biological treatment.
Yes. So what role of non-biological treatment concept?
For example,
in
chemical
transition?
treatment. For example, chemical treatment. Yeah, we do that in industry. Okay, industry wastewater treatment. But what we have to recognize is biological wastewater treatment is absolutely cheaper compared to chemical treatment. And when we think of resources, we need chemicals which we have to produce. normally high energy rich processes for the production. I'm of the opinion when it is possible to treat wastewater biologically, it's better than use chemical treatment. With respect to phosphorus reduction in the effluent of a wastewater treatment, we need chemicals for the reduction. It's also possible to do it biological way. It's a little bit different in operation, but yeah, clear answer. I am not a friend of chemical treatment.
Thank you so much.
So sorry.
I hope, next question coming from the chat. So we are very happy that the participants are active and curious about your opinion. So maybe Tobias, let's start with you. We have the question from Annalisa. And the question is to both of you, but let's start from the Tobias, please. So what do you think about resource recovery concerning stabilized sludge directly applied to land for agriculture purposes? And how close are we to fully using treated sludge as a fertilizer for food production, considering that is destigmatized by the farmers and the public in Europe?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I must say that I'm not an expert, but I know that it's done at some places in a safe way, that the sludge is controlled and it's safe to use, so to say. Yeah, I would say that this I personally would prefer these new solutions coming where you, with incineration, make sure that there is no contaminants left. I think that's the future way to go here.
Yeah, we do that in whole Europe, worldwide. Bring the sewage sludge directly to the farmland. But we have to consider that the sewage sludge is the dump of all the ingredients which are not in the wastewater, like pharmaceuticals, like PFAS, and so on and so on. We have it in the sludge. And therefore, it's a better solution to incinerate the sludge, use the ash for phosphorus recovery, and after that, after incineration, we can use the ash directly in the farmland, for soil conditioning, for example. In Southern Europe, we have not enough soil conditioner. We have a lot of sand, and so the ash coming from wastewater incineration plants is a good solution, but not directly, because of all the ingredients we have in the sewage sludge without incineration. That's my opinion.
Thank you so much. You mentioned PFAS, and also Tobias. We saw on your slide PFAS. It's quite interesting because I'm just wondering how PFAS is everywhere. It's a huge problem. It's easy to get rid of water, and how. Of course, it might, and also you mentioned the quality of the products. How PFAS might affect the quality of the recovered products in your company? You have the solution for the PFAS degradation and removing degradation, but how do you handle the problem? How do you keep PFAS out of what you are recovering and plan to sell on the market?
Yeah, well, as I said, PFAS is definitely a challenge, and it can become a liability if it's not properly managed, particularly in terms of market acceptance and trust in recovered products. And as I said, we are developing solutions for this right now, because we see that if we if we're going to be a reliable actor on the market, then we also need to take care of the waste that we don't want to circulate in the society. Therefore, in parallel of working towards this resource plans concept, we also work hard to kind of promote the roles of landfills here in Brussels, because landfills, I mean, we want to change how we view waste. Waste is not something you should just get rid of. It's something, it's a resource. But then we also need a safe place to put the stuff that we don't, that we can't treat today, such as PFAS. Sometimes it's better than if we can develop these secure storage places where we can put PFAS until we have the technology to destroy it. So that's basically my answer, that we work very hard in parallel to these new resource recovery technologies. We also try to find ways on how to treat and store the waste that we don't want in circulation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, really, indeed it's the challenge. But let's stop here. Thank you so much, because we are at time. Thank you so much both for very valuable discussion, and it was very nice to have you here in our webinar and listening to your insights. And I will hand over to Felix for the closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Molgethate, for the valuable interaction here. I would like to summarize as following. We have rules and regulations in our favor. We have a dramatic climate change. We have water scarcity and high energy costs. So the opportunities are there and the technologies exist. The question is whether we will act quickly enough to seize it. However, we don't need to wait for the EU or other regulations to start. We need to offer our solutions to the municipalities and the industries directly. Financing resources is a relatively new business model, so we need to discuss that with the financial institutions. To wrap up, we have 3 priorities. Number 1, change the mindset. Number 2, let's start implementing solutions. We have some good examples there. And don't lose sight of the fact we can convert waste into cash and reinvest it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, whoever was there today. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I'll look forward to seeing some of you in the next session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.